Hi, I'm Andy, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make this wave transition effect in DaVinci Resolve that sweeps away the text as the wave moves across the screen. I made this video originally for my friend Hedley, who was on holiday in the Canary Islands recently. He's a keen drone pilot and makes great aerial photography videos. So check out the link to his website in the description below. He was staying in Tenerife and he captured a bunch of footage of the coastline and the ocean and the surf. He also happened to bump into the Italian world windsurfing champion Matteo Iachino and got some footage of him in action too. Hedley made a short compilation video for his own YouTube channel, but he sent me all the raw clips and asked me to make a short montage of about 1 to 2 minutes long. After looking at his clips, I had this clear idea in my mind of how I wanted to open the video, which was to have the word Tenerife right in the center of the screen, but to have the word tracking the surface of the water and to have it slightly see-through. Most importantly, I had this idea that I wanted the surf to come across and sweep the text out of the way, but I didn't really know how to do it. I'm just starting out when it comes to DaVinci Resolve, and I often get stuck in that place where I can see what I want to do in my mind, but I don't know how to use the tools in DaVinci Resolve and which buttons to press to make that vision come to life. So I just decided to give it a go and learn by trial and error. I did watch a couple of tutorials on YouTube first, which were super helpful, so I'll put a link to those in the description as well and you can check them out. But I couldn't find any videos that specifically covered what I wanted to do, which was to have the wave come across and sweep the text out of the way. I knew I'd need to get the text to track the surface of the water first to give it that nice floating effect. Then I thought I'd need to use some kind of mask in the color page, like the magic mask or some kind of manual mask with some keyframing to get the wave to gradually sweep the text out of the way. But it turns out it was much simpler than that, and the surface tracker in DaVinci Resolve did everything that I wanted it to do. So I thought I'd just make this video to show you how I did it in case you want to recreate the effect for yourself. I should probably mention at this point that the surface tracker is only available in the studio version of DaVinci Resolve and it's not in the free version, so sorry about that. That doesn't mean you can't recreate this effect in the free version, but it's a different method and that's a whole other video. So let's jump into DaVinci Resolve. Here I am in the edit page and I've already placed my clip on the timeline. I'll keep the playhead at the start of the clip because that's also where I'm going to place my text. I want it to appear from the very beginning in the center of the screen. With the clip selected, let's jump straight over into the Fusion page. Now, I know Fusion can be a bit scary for some people, and especially for beginners, and that includes me, but I can assure you it's actually really easy and there's only two things that you need to do in this page. One is to create a surface tracker node and the second is to create a text node. First, we need to add the surface tracker node. With the Media 1 node selected, hit Shift and spacebar and just start typing the word surface and then hit enter to add it from the menu when you see it. If you forget to select the media in one node, then the surface tracker might appear down here on its own. If that happens, you can just hold down Shift and click and drag it back up onto the line and it will reconnect. Then with the surface tracker node selected, go to the inspector and start working from left to right in the controls menu. Start with bounds. This is where you'll define the boundary of the area you want DaVinci Resolve to track. And you can see here it says click to add points. So simply go over to the monitor and start clicking to draw the boundary that you want to use, anywhere you like. It's a little bit faint, but when you make the first click you can see there's a little circle that appears there. Then come across and click the second point and you'll see that it's connected them with a red line. And I'm going to create a triangle by adding a third, then a fourth and final point. This is now the area where you're telling DaVinci Resolve that you want it to track the surface of the water. You can adjust the size and the position of the rectangle by grabbing the points in the corner and just moving them around. Bear in mind that your text is going to have to fit inside this box. If the text is too big, then you might lose some of it, and also bear in mind that you need to keep the boundary away from the wave, as you only want to track the area that the wave will cover. So with that in mind, I'm going to position it where I think I'm going to want my text to appear. That kind of looks good. Once you're happy with the size and the position of the boundary, next move to the mesh. The mesh will automatically suggest points on the surface that it will track, and the greater the number of points, the more detailed the mesh will be, and the greater the effect. So in this case, I've bumped the points up to about 130, and I left the other settings alone, and you can see it's increased the number of points there on the screen. If you want to, you can make fine-tune adjustments to the mesh itself by clicking on the points and moving them, but I didn't bother doing this. Next, move over to the track control. All you need to do here is change the quality from faster to better. Then click on the forward arrow to start tracking. This is because the playhead is at the beginning of the clip, so you are going forward from here. Now, depending on how powerful your machine is, this could take quite some time while DaVinci Resolve chugs away, so this could be a good time to go and make a coffee. If you move the playhead back to the beginning and hit play, you can see what the mesh is going to do here, which is the effect that I want. Okay, great. So now I'll move the playhead back to the beginning of the clip, and finally move into the result control. You'll see this rectangular grid, which is the interaction overlay. The softer pink line is the boundary of your tracking area. The interaction overlay relates to where your text is going to be positioned. So change the size and position of the rectangle by grabbing and resizing the corners to fit the boundary. You can also come back here later and play with options like softness and motion blur to get the look that you want. Okay, now that's it for the surface tracker, and we're going to add the text. Simply grab the text icon from the Fusion toolbar and drag it down into the node workspace. Then join the output of the text node to the green arrow input of the surface tracker and go to the inspector and start typing in your text. In this case, I just simply want the word Tenerife. Now make all the changes that you want to the text, like the font, size, spacing, and color. And note that if you make it too big, it will go outside the boundary that you defined earlier, which is why it's important to get the size and the position of the tracking boundary correct at the beginning of this process. In this case, I'm going to use the color picker to get a color that matches the ocean, but still bright enough to contrast with the water and for it to stand out, but just play around until you get a color that you like. And if you want, you can move to the layout control and fine-tune the position of your text. You can use the X and Y controls here, or you can just use the Fusion control in the middle of the screen. Then come over to shading, where you can apply some nice effects like softness and glow, which takes off some of the sharp edges of the text. I'm just going to give that a small value. And you can also adjust opacity here to make the text more see-through and see a little of the water underneath, which I think is nice. Just play around with it until you get it how you want. You can also adjust opacity in the Surface Tracker Inspector under the Compositing menu. You see the opacity control is here as well. And you can hide the rectangle if you want with the interaction overlay, and you can play around with the composite type too if you like. There might be something in there that you like the look of, but in this case I'm just going to leave it on normal. And that is literally it. Now you can go back to the edit page and see the result of your work. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. Please let me know in the comments below, especially if you think there's another video like this one that I could make. But this is my first ever DaVinci Resolve tutorial video, so please go easy on me. And of course, while you're down there, please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.